Hello, my name is Olivier. I'm a backend engineering composition analysis, and this is a walkthrough of a proof of concept to try a new approach for our CI templates. This came from two ongoing discussions, one about the transition from Gymnasium to the new dependency scanning analyzer, and the difficulty to make changes to the dependency scanning CI template without making breaking changes, which is something that is pushed by the new company policy to favor migration over breaking changes and avoid the customer impact when we do such changes. And the other one is the integration of static reachability closer to the dependency scanning feature, because right now it's sitting in the SaaS latest template and want to bring that back closer to a dependency scanning feature. But again, that would mean including that into the dependency scanning CI template, which can possibly lead to some breaking changes, and that's not something we want to do. We recently experienced that with the incident when trying to change the stable dependency scanning CI template for adding the new dependency scanning analyzer, and this demonstrates how difficult it is to make some bold changes there without risking to break customer CI/CD pipelines. So what that means is the most straightforward and safe approach to and safest approach to make those kind of changes is to ask customers to migrate to a different file, either by versioning or by changing completely to a new file. We don't have versioning in place for the existing CI/CD template. That's something that is brought with the CI/CD components, but unfortunately, CI/CD components are not yet ready to be used at scale for the enablement of AST features. We've been discussing that already, but we're not ready for doing that in 18.0, maybe for 19.0, but for now we have to find another solution. That said, we can still leverage some of the improvements and get inspiration from the components and apply some of the good principles there to prepare the user to that new UX and have some benefits already available for us today. Um, I've mainly highlighted two of those benefits and took them as an example for this proof of concept. The first one is using the spec inputs, which is a feature that is available for every type of inclusion, not only the component, but the template can use that too. And that helps to clearly define an API when including a template. You have a clear list of what are the properties that you can override. And we can probably also try to be very strict about it and say that, for instance, any override that doesn't leverage an input is not officially supported and can be prone to breaking changes. So if you want to make sure that you have stability, just stick to changing what's available as an input. And if something is necessary for you and it's missing, then just that have a feature request and add a new input as necessary. The second option to ensure some stability and also give us the ability to move forward with some changes is to add versioning. So we cannot have the same level of versioning as clean as we have for the CI/CD component with the tagging and the release mechanism. But we can still go with something pretty simple by, for instance, adding a v1 suffix to the template name. So this is the example I've shown here with the SCA.v1. This ensures that when a customer is using that version, we can make changes there that are backward compatible. But if we are making a change that is susceptible to break an existing CI/CD configuration, we can provide a new version like a SCA.v2 template instead, and has the customers to migrate. Again, that is aligned with this new approach of migrating over breaking changes. And because it's a very straightforward change in the file name, that's something that we can assist customer with some tooling and maybe some automation to help them bump that version when they want to do the migration. And again, that's more aligned with that principle that they do the change when they are ready to do it rather than us pushing it to them. That also makes a clear separation between the different versions, and it helps tracking usage. It's easy to see which users are still using the V1, for instance, reaching out to them and helping them migrating and incentivizing them to migrate to the version 2, and make sure that by the time we want to sunset the V1, we no longer have any usages of them. Um, so based on those two main principles, I have made two suggestions here. One is a single all-in-one SCA template that includes all the SCA related features. In this example, that will be the new dependency scanning analyzer and the static reachability job. So it has the V1 version, as I stated, and it's also leveraging the inputs. I've made some quick example here. We have the stage and of our an option to enable or disable the static reachability feature. This is also demonstrating another topic that we've been discussing. The static reachability has two jobs, one for generating the data and one for merging the static reachability information into the ASBOM that is generated by the dependency scanning job. But this requires some orchestration in the stages in which the various jobs run. And also it has a very undesirable side effect of generating a new ASBOM. It's not really an enrichment, it's creating a duplicate ASBOM reports. So it requires to have additional processing in the backend to ignore those ASBOMs or doing some merge of the data there, which is not really straightforward to do. So instead, by using the needs optional definition here, we can specify that the dependency scanning job only runs after the GitLab static reachability job has completed, if it's there. And if that's the case, it allows to add the enrichment as a post-analyzer step rather than a very separate job. So we would just do the dependency scanning job as usual with detecting the dependencies, generating the SBOM, and if with static reachability data is available, then we leverage that to enrich the existing SBOM. And if it's not there for whatever reason, then we just skip that step. And that is the beauty of needs optional is, for instance, if the job for static reachability is disabled because the customer doesn't want that to run, or because we have some rules based on the files present in the repository and we don't have any compatible files supported for static reachability, then the job will not be added to the pipeline. And if that's the case with the optional to keyword here, the dependency scanning job won't fail. It will just start immediately. It doesn't wait for the job that doesn't exist. So that also alleviates the need to play with multiple stages. We can just have everything in a single stage, and the dependency and the order is dictated by the needs keyword. So that makes for a much more straightforward approach, I think, to the CI job definition and the overall process of doing static reachability. Anyway, this is demonstrating those two jobs in a single template, and from a user perspective, they just have to do the include and then do the override with the inputs there. No longer needed to override the specific jobs or to use global variables, for instance. The other suggestion is much closer to the CI/CD component philosophy, where we consider each component to be a single unit that is composable or usable to make a full CI/CD configuration. And that means a single component does a single job. So here we would have one template for the dependency detection part with a new dependency scanning analyzer, and another template for the static reachability job itself. That's the same principle. We can use the versioning, we can use inputs to configure them, and we still can define the relationship using needs. If the GitLab static reachability job is not included, well, then the dependency scanning job won't say anything and it will keep working. And from a user perspective, they just have to include multiple templates depending on what feature they want to enable. Um, de Depending on what we want to do, one approach might sound better than the other in terms of UX. Uh, I think this one is closer to the CI/CD component experience, but it's a bit less straightforward when using scan execution policies, for instance. For pipeline execution policy, it doesn't really matter because in pipeline execution policies, customer is having there is a human in the company that write the file, like we're doing here. Someone will write a policy file, which is basically a CI/CD configuration where they include and define all the job they want to enforce into other project. And so they will have to do those include statement, hiding the inputs configuration they want to override, etc., etc. And then when they have done that work, that file will be applied automatically to the selected projects. On the other hand, scan execution policies is using a UI to, with a drop-down list, for instance, to select which security scan you want to enable and enforce. And that is less straightforward when you have multiple templates, because it means if you want to enable dependency scanning, you will have to enable to enforce the dependency scanning, dependency detection uh, um, template first, and then if you want static reachability, you would have to have another enforce scan. So that's a bit less straightforward experience rather than having just an SCA template, for instance, that will include everything. There are some other concerns with scan execution policies. I believe they are mixing too many different concerns, like the enablement, the configuration, and the enforcement. So that makes things a bit more difficult. It has this like very high expectation of having things kind of working out of the box by just including a single file, which I think is not really longer true. And as we go more in depth with our feature, there will be likely more configuration required. But I mean, that's definitely a different topic. Anyway, if we want to stick to the current capabilities we have and the feature we have in place right now, maybe a single SCA file will be a much more straightforward approach for customers. So that said, if you have any question, I would be pleased to have follow-up discussions. And yeah, I really hope that sets us on the path to success for that transition. And it's not like an annoying intermediate step for customers. I wish we would be ready to switch to components, but that's not the case right now. So we have to find a compromise, and I think that's the great compromise to don't disrupt the existing customer that are still on dependency scanning CI template, but also offer us some more flexibility to make bolder changes and do a very clean migration process and have a very clean new approach for onboarding new users to start fresh with the new analyzer and the new job definition that we want to push forward. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and let's have a good follow-up discussion on that, hopefully. Have a good day.